one edge that we're seeing here is whether you talk to high stakes drafters for redraft, whether you talk to people just looking at ADP, or whether you talk to people that are doing a ton of underdog drafts, a lot of people come away with the realization that I love drafting from the 1-2 turn. I love being in the back half of the first round because there's so much value in that early second round. And also you have a perception of a flat tier. That's great. But what is the way that we should maximize, the advantage of having, potentially the 12th pick, the 11th pick? Let's take this for a redraft context, Josh. And I'll tell you this, I'm in a FFPC slow main event right now. And I went with Amon-Ra St. Brown and AJ Brown. I went wide receiver there. I think a lot of people are going wide receiver. And I've also seen some RB people here. Is this the way you approach it? Are you going to double down on a position? Are you looking at balance? What would be your approach from the back?
I generally try and double down on a position. I think my favorite is 2 receivers. There's kind of a nice collection of 5 guys that are all pretty young with tons of upside. We have CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle, AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Garrett Wilson. And those 5 it's pretty easy to see all these guys absolutely smashing in fantasy. And I'd say that the floors for all 5 of them are quite high as well, where even if they have a season where they don't live up to ADP, they're close. It's pretty hard to see these guys being healthy and putting up like 750 yards. I don't really see how that happens. I think these guys are all 1,000+ yard receivers. I think running back is interesting. I've done it a couple times when I can get Bijan Robinson and Saquon Barkley. I think that's a pretty nice combo where you could potentially get the 2 touch leaders at running back who also have pass game roles. But in general, I think the receiver start is best, because if you go running back, you're not picking receivers until 36, 37. And that's a pretty long time to wait, considering how many receivers go early. You're essentially missing out on like a tier and a half, 2, 3, 4 tiers, depending on how aggressively you want to group these guys together. So I've generally thought the 2 receivers is the best way to do it. And that ultimately the guys who go, I want to be balanced, 1 running back, 1 receiver, you are not putting pressure on anybody, because everyone else looks at that team. They go, wow, that's a balanced team. It's much better to try and kick off a receiver run or kick off a running back run once you've already gotten 2 studs at that position.
I think that you hit the nail on the head with that. I think it's a game theory perspective where you're controlling the back half of the board rather than just trying to be balanced. And also, if I start running back, wide receiver, it can work, but I'm also kind of punching up. I'm not only chasing 1 position, I'm chasing 2. Whereas my thought with an AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown start, and just to give it a little context, Saquon had been selected, Bijan had been selected. Saquon's kind of a flip a coin whether he'll be there at the turn, but Bijan's always pretty much gone in these FFPC drafts. But my thought process was I'm going to like the running backs a little bit more at 36, 37 than I would the wide receivers. And also, I'm kind of fluid where I could take another wide receiver at 36, 37. Whereas if I went running back, I'd almost be pot committed to taking wide receiver because of the scarcity of the position. So I think it's interesting. I like what you said. I'll throw out one scenario to you. In a tight end premium format like FFPC, do you think that there's any weight in pushing up like a Mark Andrews, like a potential tight end 2 overall to that level? Like he goes mid-second. It just feels like you're losing an edge if you do that.
We'll talk about him more later, but all I'll say right now is I agree with what you just said.
Okay, awesome. Well, I want to keep this first round discussion going. Another polarizing topic and conversation that we're seeing in the high stakes streets is Austin Ekeler versus Bijan Robinson. I personally think as the summer moves along, you're going to see a lot more Christian McCaffrey versus Bijan Robinson conversations, for better or for worse, as his ADP steams up. But right now, when you look at FFPC ADP, when you look at underdog ADP, these guys are the running back 2 and the running back 3. Where do you stand on this? I know that you have, you have some confidence in the Chargers offense, as do I, as does Billy Muzio, as do a lot of people. But with a changing of the guard at offensive coordinator with Kellen Moore, is there a chance that Austin Ekeler comes down and is like an 80 reception guy? And does that skew your thought process with this at all?
Yeah, right now I'm leaning Bijan. I wouldn't say that there's ultra high confidence that he's going to finish above Ekeler, but I'll kind of explain some concerns with Ekeler. So he had the target spike last season. He had over 100, goes down for half the season due to injury. Mike Williams misses several games as well. Josh Palmer, when he's the wide receiver one in an offense, of course, your receivers won't be getting as much separation as you hope, and you're going to be checking the ball down to a very good pass catching running back in Ekeler. Now they have not just Allen and Williams returning and healthy currently. You have Quentin Johnston, who they selected in the first round. Josh Palmer is still there. Gerald Everett's a competent pass catching tight end. Donald Parham generally gets some type of work whenever he's on the field. And as we mentioned, the new offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, came from Dallas. Always two back committees. Obviously, if you have Zeke and Pollard, two pretty excellent running backs, you're going to have these committees. But it does make me a little nervous that no matter which one was performing better, they always stuck to that. And it's almost like they realized that both players played better when their touches were limited. Ekeler himself has always been vocal about limiting his touches. I'm not sure if he gets all the goal line carries. When I see your body, 200 carries, 100 plus targets in pretty much back-to-back seasons, it's a lot of work for this 100. I just think Bijan has fewer questions. We've got that great Falcons O-line. Their schedule is so cake. They're just going to be able to run all over opponents. I think they have a kind of this sneaky chance to be a top 10 scoring offense due to the schedule, due to that offensive line, due to the weapons that they have. And it's tough to see him not getting 300 to 350 touches, given how they're going to structure the run and pass rates in this offense. I don't think Bijan's going to have as many targets as Ekeler, but I think the touchdowns and the raw volume make me lean Bijan.
I'm with you. And I think that it's a tough, for some drafters are I need to see it types. And with Bijan, you're never going to get that opportunity because he's going to be so good out the gate. And I also think that historically, seventh year running back has not been a great bet. We see the guys fall off at the position. And even if they don't fall off, it's just odd to see them like finish number one overall. We only need to go back to Saquon Barkley to see a rookie running back finishing one overall at the position. And we also saw Najee Harris get inside of the top three. So I think that Bijan's just a better bet right now. And like you said, there's a chance for Austin Ekeler, if he loses some touchdowns and potentially also some receptions, he could move down to like running back 6 overall level. Bijan, I think, is actually a very safe pick because they're going to be so focused on him.